All right, so we got the go-ahead from the state to use the funds. So I guess the purpose here is to just discuss how we're going to go forward, how we're going to fund which piece with what money, because I'm not sure that Mass Dot money can be used for engineering, but I'll bet we could use the ARPA funds for the engineering for this project. And then use a combination of the two and go out to bid for putting down, if we need to, for putting down the concrete. So what do you guys think? That's my first thing, is what contractors have we worked with? And then how do we fund it? So that's pretty, and then how do we go forward? Who's doing what? So those were my things to talk about. Do you guys have anything else to talk about?
Well, I mean, the bottom line is that, if we get a reasonable amount of money for a bid, we have a contractor who will promise to make that bid, or at least will do everything possible. So, getting somebody to build it is not the hard part. It's getting the permitting and the design done.
So are you saying, Bill, that we should bid it out as a single project for the design, the permitting, and the, completion?
No, I think we should bid it out as two separate projects. The contractor's not interested in design and permitting. He's just interested in construction, and we'll do it at whatever the town has.
Okay. So I know that Weston and Sampson did work on this before. And Bill, you had, was it Stantec that looked at it?
Yes. I mean, not very deeply, but they took a quick look.
They're the one that had like the $200,000.
That was their budget for it, yes.
That was their budget that they put out?
Yep.
Which is a little above what we have.
Yes.
We ordered yesterday. I don't have the final numbers for everything on the shared streets, the Winter Streets project, but my estimate is we have 25 to 30 that we can put forward for this, and another 50 from ARPA that was already allowed. So total, this is the engineering, the permitting, and the laying down the concrete, the actual building. We have
Right.
about 80,000, which seems about right. If our shared streets. So I don't know, how do we go forward? Do we go to Weston and Sampson or do we bid it out just generally and see who comes back? Can we contact, if we bid it out generally, do we contact Weston and Sampson and Stantec and say, hey, this is out there, take a look? I don't know if that's legal or not.
I think that's what we have to do. And it's perfectly appropriate for you to reach out to engineering firms and let them know that you're bidding something. That's not a violation of procurement.
Okay.
But I think because of the cost of the ultimate project that we're talking about, we're going to have to bid it. We're going to have to put out a bid for the design services.
Okay. And paying for the design services, can we use ARPA funds for that? I always thought that that's what we would do. That was why we thought 15K would do it. So it was 50, and then we were hopeful that we would get the shared streets, and that 50 would drop down to 15 for the design services. But
yeah, I think the answer is I'm pretty sure that we can pay for it with ARPA, but we should absolutely check with Jennifer.
Okay.
And just make sure before we procure it that way. We should just double check.
Okay.
With her and make sure that she's on the same page with us, that's an eligible cost under ARPA. I think it is, but but
yeah,
ultimately,
I think it is too. And she didn't bat an eye when we had told her, maybe it won't be 50, maybe it'll be less. She didn't, because we would be doing the engineering, if paying for the engineering, if we got the second shared streets grant.
Right. Right.
So, okay, but I'll check with her.
Just one question, Veronica. When you say engineering, are you including the permitting in there?
I hadn't really thought about it.
Because there's not a huge amount of engineering, for the, put in the sidewalk. I mean, the contractor could probably do it without a plan, but it's getting the permits and everything.
Right. So yes, I guess it should include the permitting then.
That original huge bid that you received, that covered permitting?
Yes.
The fan.
When we did the shared streets in March, that one, was permitting one of the things that we included in the grant it ask itself, or no?
I think it was included, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
I think
that
it was
was-
because
Yeah. Engineering.
we did have that whole discussion of permitting crossing Minnie's Brook there,
Right.
and deciding, okay, if it just got to be too much of a hassle, we'll, just leave a little bit of dirt section.
Right.
Yeah.
And not deal with that brook.
Right, because that's what I think designing the sidewalk is, it's a sidewalk. But going over the brook was the challenging part, both permitting and engineering.
Do you know, Bill, when you reached out to Stantec, were they planning to go over Minnie Brook?
Yes,
No?
but
And
they
so-
said they would have to do, permitting and engineering to make sure that the structure could hold it and things like that. So that was 99% of their concerns, was going over Minnie Brook there.
Okay. So
Did I-
go
Did I
ahead,
hear
Jane.
you say that you feel that you thought engineering was not the big part of the cost, but permitting would be?
I assume, I know permitting is going to be a challenge if you go over that bridge. So
But not a huge cost probably, but a
I don't know. Yeah.
That has an archway or whatever. When we met with Jeff and the other guy, we met with Jeff Gomes, Eric, and
Right.
Something Nascimento. I forget his first name. Frank, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's Frank.
Back in February, was it? January, February timeframe. And they were like, oh, that's an old archway under there. It's, it's in the historic district, blah, blah, blah. Maybe when we bid this out, we want to say not changing anything, or do we want them to look at it?
I don't know what you mean by not changing anything.
Meaning leaving Minnie Brook as is, not putting the sidewalk over Minnie Brook, just making it dirt.
I think having an informal conversation with, one of the bidders to get an idea of what sort of level it is. I mean, because you want a contract that's, 30K-ish, so that you don't burn up your 50K for the construction. So call them, talk to them and say, is it feasible to include Minnie's Brook at the kind of price level we're talking about? And if not, let's just put stone dust down there. We can do it informally without, that's just basically take up the dirt, put a little stone dust down, and then join the two sidewalks with stone dust and save ourselves a lot of money. So I would talk to one of the engineering firms informally, say, here's the money we've got. We know we can build the sidewalk for 50K. We've got 30K left over. Do you think we can include Minnie's Brook in this engineering study, or should we is that going to blow things up, and let's just do the non-crossing engineering?
You mean talk to them informally before we go out to bid?
Yeah, because you don't know what you want to bid on yet. So you want to get a rough estimate of what you want to do. I mean, I don't know how much it's going to cost to do the engineering to go across Minnie's Bridge. Maybe it's only $5,000, maybe it's $100,000. So you sort of need to know are we in the ballpark before you even go out to bid? And, I've had many such informal conversations with bidders about what's the price range for this kind of work versus that kind of work.
Is that a legal thing to do? So Eric, I guess that's the question.
That's for you, Eric.
Can we
Market
have those
research.
sorts of conversations before?
Absolutely. You can absolutely have informal conversations because that's the only way to know. We're supposed to have an idea of how much things are going to cost before we choose the method by which we're going to try to obtain procurement. And
Okay.
one of the only ways to do that, unfortunately, is to talk to experts and ask them how much does this sort of thing cost. So there's nothing wrong with talking to them about what would be the cost range for this sort of engineering. And if they say this engineering is going to cost a minimum of $50,000, then we know that it's not in our budget.
Right.
If I may, going back to that original one we got, they mentioned NPDES Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. That was a line item for 6,000. I don't recall where they lumped permitting in their initial pricing that they gave us for the last one.
Was that Stantec?
Yeah.
Stantec's estimate?
Yeah. So they had mobilization, they had mobilization of 35, but that was the closest thing to mentioning like permitting, but I do remember them telling us they needed because it's right next to the water, they needed that plan. I don't know, so that's, I guess, covered by permitting probably.
Or is that stormwater plan that the town has, that MP4 plan or whatever it is?
I think this is all good things to talk to the engineering firm about.
Sure.
Can we just put stone dust near the bridge there and get away from these permitting issues? I would say rather than us trying to hash it out, we really just need to talk to some engineering firm that you trust and get some ballpark estimates of what can we do with the money we've got.
Okay, so my vote for talking is to Weston and Sampson, because they did that study years ago for that we put quotes in to the from March. Bill, where did you get that from? Do you have a bigger document from Weston and Sampson for the harbor
No.
sidewalks?
Did I send that to you?
Yeah.
I think I got it from somebody, the 2015.
Yeah, the 2015 plan. Was that you, Vinny?
I think so, yeah, I forgot who
Sorry,
got
Bill.
it up.
I did the Stantec contact.
Okay.
Yeah, I talked to,
Larry Keegan or Stephen
Yeah.
Roy?
that was Weston, and yeah, I forgot who I talked to, but I can go back to him. Yeah, I have all the pages and stuff, yeah, from that 2015 plan, which I remember him, talking about how it was gonna be significantly more, now, but still might have been under that 200,000 well, that was for the entire project, not sure, because he could have got us pricing just for the engineering and permitting. I can dig up those emails, see what he said.
Would you be willing to contact him and talk to him about Minnie Brook and, tell him what we're up to?
Yeah,
And I'll get better numbers for.
and just for me to make sure I understand, it's the same exact goal as what we applied for last time, correct? The
Yes,
length of the
exactly what we
sidewalk.
did,
Yeah.
shared streets and spaces, that grant that you did, Vinny.
Okay,
It's exactly that.
and if I you spoke about wanting to do it in two different, engineering and permitting maybe once, and then the actual construction after.
That's what I thought made sense, but if,
Yeah, that's what I think we're contemplating is hiring an engineer
Sure.
who's going to be responsible for creating the specs and doing the permitting, and then putting the specs out to bid for a contractor to do the sidewalk
The
installation.
concrete. Okay. Yeah,
Right.
I can, yeah, I'll circle back with him. I don't remember his name, but I'll have the email, so.
okay. All right, so maybe that's where we go from here. And then based on that, we write an RFP, correct?
Correct.
All right, and then, see what we can do with that. And I'll get definite monies based on what we've spent so far. I have to look at, because the highway and cemetery put in costs for labor. I have to look at what they've charged to the grant so far, but we had a fair amount of money left over. So,
Question?
go ahead, Joan.
Bill, when we originally put out an RFP for the rail trail engineering study, we had a couple other bidders. Do you recall? David E. Ross?
Yes, we had VHB, which was the other serious bidder besides FST, which became Stantec.
So just a couple other ideas.
And the one of the engineers for VHB actually lived in Townsend, or was familiar with the area. So I mean, I could reach out to her too. Patricia Donahue, I think her name was. So if you want me to reach,
They're a good outfit. I'm familiar with them.
yeah. So they've done work for Townsend before, so I can, and we, she's a user of the rail trail, so she might be willing to, give us some details. So I'll reach out to her and do basically the same thing you're doing, Vinny. How much engineering can we get done for $30K, which is the bottom line.
Sure.
And how about David E. Ross? Didn't he also deal with them? Are they gone?
We dealt with them with surveying. I don't know if we've ever done any engineering with them.
I thought we had 3 bids and I just can't remember.
I only remember the 2 because we got the 2 serious bidders.
Yeah, right.
This was for the sidewalk?
No, this was for the entire rail trail way at the beginning.
This is for a preliminary engineering study of the whole 3.7 miles.
I think you sent me that study, Bill, a long time ago.
Yeah, it's actually on our website also.
Okay. All right. All right. So Vinny and Bill, you'll both reach out and to the firms, and then how do we get the RFP done?
So who's our point of contact if we have information? Do we send it to you, Veronica? I'm always afraid of I don't know if we're a me thing or not. So I just send things to you
What do you think, Eric? Or to Vinny?
or
Sure.
to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could send it to either Vinny or myself or both of us.
Okay,
And we're just staff, so.
right.
Which is better than
mere
you
mortals.
doing nothing. I'm nothing. So
All right.
I just set up meetings. Okay, so yeah, if you two reach out and then send it to either Vinny and or Eric, and then we decide, how to write an RFP and get that out there. That would be good. We have until November 30th. So we have to do it fairly soon to get the
So
engineering done.
November 30th is the engineering or the
That's
construction?
the whole thing.
All right,
that's
so that's
our
construction
extension.
also.
Yeah,
All right, so it's definitely time critical.
yes.
I got a stupid question from the grants guy, but when's the next round of this shared, it says March 22nd. I don't know when the next round is. What makes us think
I,
there's going to be,
we're not going back to them. We're going to spend the
Okay.
money that we have. We're
I
not
get
going
you.
back to
So we're
them.
using the ARPA money and then the
And
leftover.
The
we-
remainder, the state
Gotcha.
doesn't want the shared streets and money straight. They don't want that shared streets money back because they'd have to, I guess, I don't know. They don't want the money back. They want us to spend it, and we can spend it for the project that we put in and didn't get on
Okay.
the, March 1st round or whatever it was. So
Sure.
that's what we're doing. It's just that they didn't allow that to go to engineering. And so I don't want them to balk. So we'll use ARPA money for the engineering, I think, if it's okay with
Okay.
Jennifer.
I get you. Thanks.
Again, I just found in my files the RFP that we set out for engineering for the rail trail. I don't know if the town has a lot of that kind of thing, or if we might be able to use this as a base.
Sure.
Maybe use it as a base. Send
You know,
it
it
to
has
Jenny.
instructions, proposers, introduction to the project, some background, characteristics we want from the consulting team, project scope. I don't know where we got it, Bill. Do you remember, Steve?
We probably Googled it. I'm sure.
Deliverables expected from the winning bidder and requirements for proposal submission and qualifications and how we're going to evaluate you. Yeah, we probably took a Google thing and worked it over.
Was that
So-
for the full rail trail?
Yeah, it was for the full rail trail back, I think, when we were intending to do a paved rail trail. This was like the whole shebang.
But it wasn't the full engineering. It was just a preliminary engineering, is it feasible? Basically a feasibility engineering study.
Hmm.
So
Do you think that would help any of the folks, Weston or Santec or?
No, but it might help us when we have to write a new one of these.
Sure.
So I just want to, if everybody has a minute, I just want to kind of do a timeline. So if we're going to post for an RFP for design, it's got to be out there, I believe, for at least 2 weeks, a minimum of 2 weeks posted. Then we're going to have to review it and award and negotiate and execute a contract with the engineer. Then they're going to have to do the work. They're going to have to go through the same process with a
The sign?
with a contractor. We're looking at the posting and bidding and review and contracting requirements are likely to take, a minimum a month or more for each one of those sections. So we are July 12th. If the construction is not, it doesn't appear to be a super time consuming construction, assuming they're not doing a whole lot of structural work on a bridge. But for just the sidewalks, that's not a super time consuming construction. They could probably do that in a week once they're mobilized.
Right.
But we have to have the money spent by November 30th. We're not going to be able to be doing paving on November 25th. That's just going to be too cold. In all likelihood, most folks shut you down sometime in early or mid-November. So if we get an RFP in the next 2 weeks and put it out by I'm assuming, August 1 or something like that. And then that takes a month, that's September 1. And then that takes a month, that's October 1. I just want to kind of put in everybody's head that we are on a really, really, really tight schedule. And a week here or a week there might push this past something that would reasonably be able to get done in the construction season before the paving shuts down. I think there's time. I just think it's a bit of a time crunch. We don't have a month to play with, I guess.
And I'm looking back at, the 2015 bid or proposal. It was $28,000 back in 2015, and it was actually almost, I think it was exactly. So I just practically speaking, we're hoping that the competitive process will get us engineering and permitting for less than that now. I don't know how realistic that is.
Vinny, did that include putting down the sidewalk, or was that
No, this was just to get the plan
that was just for the plan?
in 2015. Engineering, design, permitting, bid document preparation, environmental permitting assistance. It did maybe construction administration.
Oh, so that's overseeing the construction.
Yeah, attending pre-construction meetings. So that would, when we talked to him, I did know, he did say, of course, it would be more nowadays. So I don't know, but we can kind of use, if you guys don't have this, I can certainly share, but I think this would be pretty much what we're asking for. So.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't have that, Vinny. If you want to send that
Okay.
to all of us, that would be good. And then talk to them. What I'm thinking, and Eric, you can, maybe I have to call the MassDOT people. If we went out for the engineering and we used the MassDOT money to pay for the engineering, the ARPA funds could be used for laying down the sidewalk. And that wouldn't have that same November 30th time constraint. So in other words, we have to expend all the shared street money that we're holding now by the 30th of November. The ARPA money, we have a lot longer for that. So as long as MassDOT doesn't balk at us spending it for the engineering study. So I should maybe give Amber a call and check on that too. And then use the ARPA money for, putting down the sidewalks next spring, if that is a better timeline. I mean, we could go for it, but
And it doesn't feel like it's not doable. It just feels like we're on kind of just a tight.
schedule.
It is a tight timeline to start in July and get something constructed by early November because of weather. You just don't want to risk it.
Right.
I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying we just need to move on it and not dilly dally, as my mom would say. Don't dilly dally.
Right.
Do you recall the original shared streets requirements, if they talked about engineering?
I know that for the RRFB, we did that kind of with a design contingency. That's how we paid the
Oh,
$5,000 to
yeah.
Weston and Sampson.
Yep.
They wanted things that were quick, because we were supposed to do all that in 6 weeks or something,
Yeah, remember that?
They might have changed their tune after going through the shared streets with all the towns that they did.
I just found it in their original FAQ. Can engineering and design services for eligible projects be funded, or is funding only for construction? Although reasonable design costs in appropriate proportion to the overall cost of the project can be covered by a shared winter street and spaces grant, we urge applicants to take advantage of the free technical assistance that is part of the program. Remember that?
Yes.
Making use of this assistance will maximize the grant funds, etc. So it sounds like it's soft. We might be able to.
Huh.
I wonder if we can get, what's her name back that helped us?
Kittleson and Associates, Margaret Kent.
Everything, right?
Yeah, but did she do sidewalks? I don't know if they did.
I don't know.
Should I call and check with the Bar Foundation?
You have an awful good track record so far.
With getting them to do
Like
stuff?
100%.
Yeah. Let me check on that. While Vinny's checking with Weston and Sam, I kind of feel like, this is just me and my moral things, I feel like we should use Weston and Sampson to do this because we had already the town had already used them and then just never went forward, never accepted any bid or did anything with that. Just let it drop. I don't know. That's
Even if
just
they're
me.
not the low bidder, such, as long as we do our due diligence, right?
Do you want me to check in with,
I was just gonna say, how long is the stretch of sidewalk we're contemplating?
It's only 690 feet.
I can
Long
throw a ball
sidewalk.
that far.
Let
you know
Jim
where
Smith at it.
Andrew was loading up those trucks for the water this morning? Okay, so if you travel west on that same left-hand side, the south side of 119,
Mhm.
it's at the traffic light there. It's from the traffic light up to the Harbor Church. That's where it is. And there's a bridge right there that goes over a stream that goes under 119, and it's
Mhm.
historic. It has like a big stone arch under it, kind of. It's kind of old, and that's a historic district.
And that's where it dives back into the actual rail trail
Uh-huh.
Correct.
At the
Yes.
church.
Yeah, by the church.
by the church.
Yeah.
Right.
The
Okay.
rail trail won't go behind. You guys can talk more about that. The historic
Society.
society, not the Historic District Commission, not the towns, but the nonprofit, asked to keep the rails in there for historic purposes and to take the rail trail out on the road at that point. And so they gave the Squanicook Greenways an easement along the church there to go back in and access the rail trail. So that's all in place.
All right. That makes, I have a visual in my head now.
Okay, but it's along 119, and that's
Yeah.
a state road.
Right.
So that's another thing. But we did talk to them, and Bill and Vinny and I talked to Jeff Gomes and the Nascimento guy. Frank Nascimento, back in January, February timeframe. We met with them and told them about all this, and they weren't negative at all. They were just Minnie's brook might be an issue. That's all.
Yeah. Okay.
Hold on one second. I grow them. I'm picking them like crazy right now. Thank you, though. All right. Sorry, there are zucchini. Could be coming your way, Eric.
I love zucchini.
Tomatoes, but.
Mine are
okay.
going crazy. Anyway, so. Yeah, so there's that, but that's where it is. It's not a big piece at all, but Weston and Sampson, the town had apparently gone out for bid for this back in 2015, I guess.
Yeah.
The document that Vinny has. So,
Great.
okay, so.
Vinny has emailed that to all of us, by the way, so we all have
Oh,
it.
good. Okay. So Vinny will check with Weston and Sampson. Bill will check with Stantec just to talk about Minnie's Brook and what's doable there.
And the key is
No,
if
I'm-
ditching that from our bids makes it more realistic.
Yeah,
That's the reality, right?
Correct. Yeah.
right.
I was going to actually talk to VHB because they're just a local company, but I can talk to both if you want.
No, VHB is fine. I think Stantec already gave us something, didn't they, kind of?
Right.
Bill, can you I just want to be able to ask the question of Weston. When you were talking about the alternatives, could you just go over that again?
All right. So as you know, there's a little sidewalk from South Street ends before Minnie's Bridge.
Yeah,
And then it's maybe 10 feet until Minnie's Bridge, which, there is a shoulder on it there, which is dirt right now, which is, where people are riding their bikes. And then it gets in front of the Reed homestead. So the question is, would it be a lot easier to just build the sidewalk up till about, from the Harbor Church up till about 10 feet before Minnie's Bridge and not cross the bridge, so you don't have to worry about the engineering, the strength of the bridge, putting concrete on it, And then we'll simply put stone dust between those two sections, simply
Stone dust.
replace the dirt. So that visually it would still look like a rail trail. Well, the rail trail is stone dust, so people
Okay,
would see it. And so the question is whether cutting that little section of Minnie's bridge out would make things quicker and cheaper.
and that's approximately 10 feet of our total, you're saying?
No, I would say it's
No.
about, the bridge itself is 10 feet, then 10 feet on either side, so 30 feet less.
30 feet less, okay.
Yeah,
But-
I don't think it's the linear feet that's going to be the savings. It's going to be the
Sure.
not having to deal with the bridge.
Yeah,
Right, not having to deal with the bridge and not going right over water and stuff like that.
okay, thank you. That helps.
That might get us out of the NIPD's permitting thing too. We stay away from the bridge,
Yeah,
which is, I think, one of the things that was in there. I
And
think
should I check with MassDOT with the Shared Streets Program about using the Bar Foundation for these services?
I think
They
you
did a
should, in
they did a
part
great
because
job.
if we can do that and it's free, then we have more money to spend on the actual installation.
That's true. And we might not have to use ARPA funds as much.
And
Okay.
yeah, we might be able to not,
Okay, so let me check with
possibility.
MassDOT Bar Foundation. We did use them. They laid out the bike lanes. They did
Yeah, they did a
all
great
the
job.
engineering for that. Yeah, they laid out
Really nicely
everything.
done.
Where the signage went, they did all of that for us.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll check with them. Okay, so when do we meet again to decide, should we meet late next week, maybe?
I was gonna say, maybe and towards the end of next week to give everybody a week to try and nail down things.
Yeah.
So Thursday or Friday next week?
So do you want to shoot for the 21st?
Yeah, what day of the week is that? I don't have a
That's
calendar.
Thursday the
Thursday.
21st.
Okay, let's shoot for that then. And I'll set up a Zoom the same way.
Sounds good.
Is that
That's
good?
good.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
10 o'clock, is 10 o'clock still
Yep.
the time we want to try for?
good.
Does that work for everybody next Thursday?
Yep.
Can we go a little bit later or earlier?
We can go earlier. I've got an 11 through 12:30, so I'm after 11 I'm kind of tied up, but I can do earlier if other people
Me
can.
too.
9?
9?
9?
9 works.
Okay.
Okay, so our goal is to talk to all these engineering firms before that meeting, send out notes to everybody, and then discuss what we learn at this next meeting.
Right.
Yes.
And then figure out whether or not we need to go forward with an RFP and get that out there.
Right. Or if we can just send this, scope over to the Bar Foundation and say,
Hey,
can you do this?
right.
I dream big.
That'd be good.
I mean,
That would be
if they say yes, Veronica, just tell us so we can, because if we, no, I mean, seriously,
Okay.
if you send it to them and they say, yeah, we can do this, let us all know so we can stop talking to these engineers and then
Right.
just,
Okay.
Because it's very hard to
Work.
beat free, so.
yeah, yeah.
Right, that's true. So, okay,
And we don't have, if it's free, we don't have to go out to bid for it.
that's true. That's right.
It's free.
All right, I'll find out and let you guys know. Meanwhile, check with them too, and we'll go from there. All right, thank you,
Sounds
everybody.
good.
Great.
Take care.
Thanks a lot.
Have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.